Hey everybody, welcome to the Mildly Competitive Podcast. Today we have actually the full crew again. Everyone's back together and Trenton's not knocked out in the corner. We have not a ton of things to go over, but some interesting topics nonetheless we want to talk about. We've had a lot of people traveling through different regional or cups and challenges through the area, as well as we're going to have the shop review corner because people did travel to those shops. Want to talk about some of the meta, what it's feeling like, what we're seeing right now. I think it's very obvious. It's a lot of Lost Tina. The new changes to the regional pricing, as well as kind of our current standings in relation to that on the team, kind of where we're gonna be in terms of points coming up. So to start off, we have, like I said, the full crew. We've got DJ, Dyson, Casey, myself, Eric, Daniel, and Trenton.
Hey,
hello.
Guys.
What's up, everyone?
Hi.
So
Every time I've been editing that to be more and more of an incoherent mess. So it's one big blob of us just going blah, blah, blah.
All right, so we had a lot of people traveling. Myself and Casey actually traveled for something else this weekend. We did some Lorcana event, which was a lot of fun, which Casey ended up winning. So we're
Whoop,
gonna
whoop.
slip that in there. But for the rest of you guys who did go traveling, how'd it go? I think we want to kind of save Dyson for last, just based upon no
Who did
spoilers.
worse?
But
Wink.
yeah, who did the worst? Wink, wink.
Yeah, I'll start that off. Saturday we attended a cup in Creswell, Oregon. I ended up running the Lost Box Charizard. Ended up going
Lossard.
Lossard. I took the shell of Tina, replaced the Tinas with Charizard, rare candies from Mirage Gate because, Charizard was
It's
my
the
Mirage
same
Gate.
card. Yep.
Yeah. So, took that concept. I every round I had to go to 3 games. So it could have been the other side if cards played out right. 1-5. Ended up playing against my son too, and he beat me. He was super excited. And then the second day, I started out with a draw, 2 wins, and final round, brother on brother, and I did not get there. So that was my event. No points for me, but definitely some experience on Zard and things I'd like to change. And it's a fun card. I can see why people are afraid of it. Big, chunky boy.
I guess I'll go next. I did pretty well. I don't know if I did as well as Dyson. Maybe better, but
Maybe.
Some might say.
In Swiss rounds this weekend, I went undefeated. Saturday, I went 4-0-2 into Top Cut. Pretty straightforward, playing DT Mew. Didn't expect
You did switch to Mew.
Yeah,
Interesting.
didn't expect a lot of Spiritomb. So I didn't play the Fusion Energy in there. And my call turned out to be right. Stomped some people. Got on stream twice. Neither match was particularly close. I think I won both matches on stream in 10 to 15 minutes. Boo, poor content brain.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Yeah. And then in top 8, I went against this really cool guy who we met from Corvallis. Vicente was his name, right?
Yeah, he just goes by Scent.
Cent. Yeah, really cool guy from Corvallis. We played in other tournaments. And then in top 4, me and Dyson got a rematch. So I had beat him earlier in Swiss on the day. And the game was really close. All 3 games. Game 3 came down to me missing a power tablet off my Fusion Strike systems. And I got really tilted that game because the very next card in my deck was the power tablet. So
You never look. You never look.
He Iono'd me. And then I drew in the next card. Like that just completely tilted me. So that was unfortunate, but it was a really, really close game. I think if I'd got that, I would have had the game because I would have knocked out his Giratina, gotten down to one prize, and he had no more.
He's been thinking about this all weekend. He has it completely mapped out.
He has no more. Well, he had no more Giratinas out to knock out my Mew
See?
or anything, but unfortunate. And then Sunday, I went in with Giratina Lost Box. I didn't play it Saturday because I didn't want to hit a bunch of mirror matches. But event was pretty straightforward. Round 1, I played Daniel. He didn't really set up. That game was pretty easy. Round 2, I played against. Can't remember. I don't know. That match was pretty easy. Round 3, I played against Arctina. I don't think they got a. Or no, that one they bossed up my Giratina V with a choice belt on their Arceus, thinking it would knock out, but it does in fact have 220 HP.
Got him.
Because he had the DT.
Yeah.
Rip.
But and they only set up one Arceus because they thought they were getting their knockout on my attacker.
Oh.
But unfortunately, I couldn't punish him because I Colress concealed cards, Comfey twice, and I missed Mirage Gate with a 25 card hand. But I still won that game. And then the final round, I went against Arctina again, and they just never got a V-Star out. So, yep, pretty straightforward. So, ended up getting 3rd in the cup and 1st overall in the challenge.
I suppose that leaves me to go next. Saturday, I don't know if anyone mentioned this, but this was a best of 3 Swiss. So it was
Oh,
a
really?
very long day.
That's wild. In a cup or challenge?
Cup.
Cup.
That's a 3 Swiss and cup. Interesting.
Yeah, it was.
That's not typical.
It was a long day. I was playing some janky water box Baxcalibur list that I threw together in the morning on 2 hours of sleep.
That's one of the
I was
best decks
completely
come
out of
out.
it. It was rough. I don't remember how many games I won. Not many. And though there was no one there to prove it, so this isn't a factual statement, but during one of DJ's son's buys, I may have played a game against him in which I lost. but no one can prove it.
I've
so
heard that rumor.
It never actually happened. I don't know if you hear that. If you hear someone say that, never happened.
So y'all, I heard that Daniel actually played against.
I've lost to a lot of juniors and seniors recently.
It's because you're a 5 head and they're a
Yeah.
3 head.
I think he has a negative
True.
record against them.
I probably do. I've not had a great season, but hey, I've got points. I've finally got points last week, so I'm sure you guys mentioned that. The next day I was playing a Shadow Rider Calyrex Luna Rock deck and went 2-2. My loss to Trenton, as he said, I just didn't set up ever. And I think overall the deck felt pretty interesting. It felt pretty good when I could get going. I think there's a couple cards here and there that I would adjust if I were going to play it again. I'm not sure if I'm
Do you
going
think
to.
you would play it? I was about to ask. Do you think you'd play it again?
I like the deck a lot. I don't think it's quite competitive enough to play at Pittsburgh. I might play it in a challenge. I don't think I'd play it in a cup. But I essentially wanted to play something that didn't lose to Path to the Peak. Because the day before, I think I declared Starbirth once on Arceus.
Ooh.
And I don't think I
That's
evolved
rough.
to my Pidgeot ever.
Interesting. Pidgeot being bad. Peculiar. Strange.
Because I couldn't Starbirth.
Interesting.
I think it was still
Anyway.
a good card. Somebody placed top 8 with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, overall, my weekend wasn't super eventful. But feeling, I don't know what I'm feeling. This meta's weird.
It is
And we'll
very
get to
weird
that.
meta. But my weekend was pretty good. I piloted Lost Tina. On Saturday, round 1, I took a draw to a lady playing Gardevoir, and it was one of those wins where you had the game the next turn, you just ran out of time. So
Ooh.
that was a little stressful.
Is that one game that you think you probably should have called a judge on slow play?
Yes and no. The lady was a local there, so I feel like she would have had the
Oh,
The
So
favors.
definitely yes then.
yeah. So I drew my first round, won my second round, played against a mirror match. And round 3 I played against Trenton.
I think
Lost
it was
that
round 4 or
round.
5.
No, it was 3. It was 3.
It was.
Yeah, because after that I was 1-1-1,
Oh yeah,
and I had to win out. I had to win out the rest of the day, which I got
No
there.
pressure.
Played 2 more mirror matches of Lost Tina, and then my last match, I played Turbo Box, and that match came down to the wire. I made a cool play where it was like he knocked out my sable. What did he knock out? He knocked out a Comfy to go down to 1, and damaging my Greninja, so the next turn he could have game. And I sent up my Greninja, switch carded it off. Ionoed myself into Sableye Energy, so I could use concealed cards to get the Mirage Gates and a switch card to have the game on his Manaphy and Comfy that were already damaged.
Spicy.
An incredibly gutsy play.
Yeah,
Goblin mode, if you will.
that guy was pretty tilted, and that was to get into top 8. So I'm thankful I won that one. And in top 8, I played against a Sablezard deck. I made the right call in playing Lost City in my list, so I could Lost City their Zard, and they just couldn't.
Yeah, that's a
return.
scoop right there.
Top 4, me and Trenton duked it out. And like you said earlier, he missed the power tablet. So I'm thankful I dodged that one. And in finals, I played against a mirror match. It was a pretty good game. Went to 3 games. I made a misplay instead of benching my Manaphy, which I had in the hand, and I just paid for it. And he set up Greninja Mirage Gates.
The
Just
greed is real.
Yeah, took that one, but got second. Got a bunch of points from it, and then on Saturday I ran it back with the Lost Tina. Went 3-1. Took third. My only loss was to Arctina. And yeah, it was a pretty successful weekend for the mildly competitive squad.
Let's
go.
So,
Yeah.
quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Going back to the finals on Saturday, after the match, your opponent insisted that going second in that matchup is better,
Right.
and he chose to go second. Like,
Yeah.
do you agree with that?
Me personally, I don't agree with that. I think going first, it just seems like the right call. I guess you can get a Cramorant turn 2, which is more aggressive, but I don't know. Every time I seem to go first, I got a triple Comfey off, Battle VIP passes, supporter for the next turn. It's pretty smooth.
Yeah, he was insistent, like, and like his logic kind of makes sense. You do get the first cram attack a lot of the times, but I don't know.
It's a very unique position.
Now, that in that position, it makes sense to go second if one you have access to the chorus, right? Because if you miss going second, then you're just a turn behind after your opponent lost comb feed. And then second note, I'd like to add that Dyson ended the weekend with 48 points, and Trenton ended the weekend with 47. So fantastic. Fantastic showing from both of them.
Both plus 100 now.
Yeah.
And that grind set.
Very nice.
I'm just gonna win a world or a regional and call it good.
Same. Pittsburgh. Here we go.
We'll get to
No, I'm gonna
regionals
win
in a
Sacramento.
moment. First, though, I do want to go over the shop reviews. From what I recall, these shops, you've been to at least one of these ones before? Was it Kraken?
We went to Matt's this weekend. Matt's Cavalcade of comics and cards.
What a mouthful.
That's an alliterative nightmare.
It is. It sure is. That shop's great. We've talked about that shop before. The cup that we went to was Elite GameSpot.
Yep.
Which is actually a note to Casey, the home store to those two players that traveled to our cup.
Oh, cool. Were either of them there?
One of them was. The other, who had won the event, who won our cup, had gotten COVID while at Worlds.
Rough.
So he was not there that day.
Womp womp.
But we talked Edison and
Nice.
stuff like that. So that was fun.
Yeah, he took down our store. We had to take down his store.
That's true. That's true.
Eye for an eye.
No tag backs.
What would you rank that store, Daniel?
How do I put this? It was probably my least favorite store we've been to so far.
Ooh.
And I don't know if I feel like it got significantly better as players thinned out and dropped, because it was very tight for how many players we had in there.
Mm.
It was sometimes pretty hard to get to your table.
The worst thing
The way
though
it
was
was
the
laid
heat.
out.
The heat
And there was no AC.
brutal.
Right now, gross. Yeah,
It was real bad.
not okay.
Yeah, that's my biggest complaint. I think it'd be fine under quote unquote normal circumstances. They did have a really cool Rem mug that I may not have purchased. So, like, it was the shop was cool. It was just it is hot, and no AC was brutal.
Yeah, that's definitely rough. So what'd you score it? Give me a number.
3.5,
Okay.
probably 3.
Closer to a 4 than a 2.
I'm giving it a 2.5.
I was trying to be nice.
So right down the middle.
Oh man, it was a sweat fest.
Literally.
Was it stanky?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'll rate it. Let's say 4 out of 5 because I might go back to it
Whoa.
for a cup or a challenge. And,
True. See?
I would rather not. I would rather be welcome than not. So
I think it's a valid criticism to say that not having an AC makes a shop harder to play at. That's entirely valid.
it was definitely hot. But I think the shop was a cool place. It was just, for me, it was mostly the.
Hey, what
no
was
AC.
it cool?
Yeah.
It literally was not cool.
Yeah. That was the only issue for me. It was just too hot.
Yeah, and to close that one out, right? Like, we went to a cup in the middle of August into a place that had poor ventilation, right? Like that just, makes,
Especially during this fire season.
Yeah. This, it definitely put a damper on our experience, right? I will say the highlights of it is the shop inventory selection. They just had a ton of sealed products from all kinds of different eras. So, like, pretty much everything from Evolving Skies on, they had access to.
Kind of tight.
Yeah, and a bunch of like older, like legacy type of sealed product, and then it was a PSA shop. They did their own rating, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's
similar.
Similar to PSA. What's the other one? You guys are more.
BGS, CSA, Beckett.
Yeah, they have their
a
own
ton have popped
system.
up.
But theirs is cool. Theirs is unique because it uses the blockchain.
Oh,
Which I
okay.
could not,
Oh,
in fact,
okay,
get to
okay.
work.
Did you have to set up a wallet and all that?
But I connected my wallet and it just didn't work.
You have a wallet?
We should check your crypto in about 2 months.
Yeah.
All of his actual crypto is safe.
Yeah. Use hardware wallets, guys. Not affiliated with anything.
What a
Brought
weird
to you
turn.
by.
Right, yeah. So I mean, I will say, like, season 2 or whatever, when it's in the middle of the winter, right? That location will be a little bit easier to get to since we don't have to go through the pass to get there. We can take the scenic route. So we may be
That is a plus.
yeah, we may be returning. I did tell the boys I got a ton of store credit that we're not coming back, but after calming down and being frustrated for the heat, like thought about it and was like, okay, kind of expected it, but yeah, my final rating those, I'd give it probably a 3.5. Right, there's it's an older building.
Above average?
Yeah, it's an older.
You'd say it's above average?
Yeah, I'd say it's above average.
Okay.
I'm gonna adjust my rating. I'm gonna add a 0.5 because there's a bar next door.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that bar did feed everyone at the events. They probably made quite a chunk of change.
And it had AC.
Yes, it did have AC. So me and Daniel got to sit in there while we ordered food. That was nice. And then the second shop, you guys we already ranked. What was the
We have.
Yeah, the second shop.
Matt's cavalcade of comics and cards.
So that name doesn't sound familiar, but I don't know if that's because I wasn't paying attention for the shop ranking or if it was not on an episode I was on.
Yeah. DJ
Probably
hasn't ranked it yet.
Latter. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, with my experience, it's definitely a comic book shop, right? If you guys think about a comic book shop, you go into the room and then you have these tiny aisles that you're walking through, but there's just tons of memorabilia and comics.
Yep.
It feels like that, like the library section. Like you go to the register and there's just stuff piled on piled and piled and stuff. And like they did have like some sort of online system, but not every single Pokemon card was on there, and they just had binders. And to purchase a card, you had to read off the set number, and they would look it up and tell you what the price is there. So, that I'm not really a big fan of, right? Especially being used to a system that's directly plugged into a marketplace like TCG Player, and they just give you the price there. Like, it's just, that's what I'm a fan of. So with that in mind, there's no play space in the actual shop.
Really?
So, yeah, so we do have to go through a couple doors into a garage with some tables set up.
Oh,
that's the garage.
It's the garage.
Yes.
The garage.
The garage.
No, I will say that the staff definitely made it a better experience, right? Like there was raffles every single round. They weren't like the craziest raffles, but everyone got to feel like even if they weren't doing well, they won something.
That's
they
nice.
shot at something.
Yeah.
That reminds me.
I
want one of your keychains.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't a top-heavy pricing like it was the day before. So they did pack per win like we do at our locals. And everyone at least, got something walking out of the door. So I will definitely say a shop that's focused on giving back to their community. They communicated when their cup's happening. They are limiting to 40 people, but like as soon as they announce it, if you reach out to them, either social media or Discord or even calling them to, I guess, pre-register or put your name on the list, like they will get you in, which I really enjoyed, right? Like we went to that store instead of another store in Portland that had a cup that was limited to 40 people.
24.
24.
Or 24.
24?
Yes. There was no pre-register, first come, first serve. So
Nope.
we had folks at our challenge in Corvallis, which is 2.5 hours away from Portland, try to get to that cup. They arrived 45 minutes early, and there was already a camp line. And
Wow.
Jeez.
yeah, they said that people arrived at 7 a.m. and the store opened at 10 a.m. So
Jeez.
our game plan was like, we'll get there an hour early. Hopefully we get spots, but we made the audible call to not go, and just go back to Matt's and to do a challenge and have a low key day, and it was a great call. I definitely rate that store, 3.5. Right, we didn't have the heat issues, and having a designated play space, even though being as unique as it is in a garage, it was fairly open. You weren't bumping into your neighbors or not, and
Okay.
yeah, that's the home of some S tier players. So we
It's
will,
true.
we'll just S tier players. 3.5.
Some of my favorite players are from Corvallis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Now, passing it back to our host, what was the next segment we wanted to talk about, Eric?
Yeah, so we want to go over kind of a lot like the BDIF, the best deck in format at the moment, as well as just kind of the general meta, because I think we're all feeling it a little bit, as was kind of alluded to earlier with Dyson's discussion on his events, is Lost Box Tina is everywhere. That seems like the list to beat. Looking at limitless TCG's like online results for all these events, it's just Lost Box, Lost Box, Lost Box. And it's like, it's so dominant, but it doesn't have anything new. There's nothing in it from Obsidian Flame that makes this deck better than it was in the past.
I think
Does any?
I think it was
yeah,
Not true.
I think it was still the best deck last set. But it just became more played because it has Path to the Peak, and Path to the Peak's really good, especially into Charizard, which is like supposed to be the new deck. But I think like last set, it was still the BDIF. I don't think anything changed. I think it's just being played more now.
But it was played last set.
Yeah.
So like, what could have possibly changed to make it not? Because even going into last set, like it really didn't have many tops. It really didn't have big finishes. But now all of a sudden it's dominating cups and challenges.
I think
So like,
Well, I think last season it was still dominating cups and challenges. It didn't have a big finish at Worlds, but I would still see it all over Twitter. Like it was easily the most the deck I would see winning the most cups and challenges for sure.
Same with Limitless. It's been this way for a while.
It got fourth at Worlds training.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like super dominant though. It just had like one finish.
Right. So like on this segment, I definitely wanted to talk about one specific card and what it's doing to the game, and I think this is going to put everyone on a tangent when they think about Path to the Peak.
Oh.
I think past fine.
Here's the problem. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I've got Yu-Gi-Oh brain. Floodgates, I think, are generally fine in specific circumstances and ways they're utilized. So, for example, something like Safeguard, totally fine. Totally fine ability. It is a floodgate, totally fine. Something like Manaphy, technically another type of floodgate effect, totally okay. It's a mandatory run.
To explain what Floodgate means, it's not a very common Pokemon term. In Yu-Gi-Oh, it is a card that just stops something from ever happening. Let's say, playing items like the old Vileplume with that item lock, that was could be considered a Floodgate.
Yeah, so the basic concept is it's preventing you from doing something, i.e. holding back the floods. So, that being said, with Path to the Peak, I think the problem with it right now is there are no good field removals except for other fields or stadiums. There's no good stadium removals except for other stadiums, which I think leads to it being dominant because it's hard to remove, especially with Iono and Roxanne running around. So its effect as is, I'm okay with. The problem is there isn't enough support for removing it as cleanly as other like lock or item prevention effects we've had before, or inability lock effects as well.
Everyone just has to play Lost Vacuum for Lost Vacuum.
Yeah, I think in this format you either have to run a bunch of path or you have to run a bunch of path outs.
Yeah, like you either become the path or you die to the path.
Yeah, it's back. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Silent Lab back in XY,
Or
which was
power plant.
extremely similar. Or power plant.
Same thing.
Yeah, power plant. I think I meant power plant. But that format, I'm pretty sure field blower was still legal.
Yeah.
So like that was just like the
It
cleanest
rotated
answer.
shortly after the release, if not before.
True, it was kind of a little bit of an
but
overlap.
We had Chaotic Swell.
Yep, chaotic swell. That was the other one. That was not only just like now removal, but also future removal because of how
Swell was really
busted
good.
that card was. So yeah, Path is like such a powerful card, but only against very specific decks. Like Lost Box decks don't really care. Like sure, you turn off your Greninja, but whoop-de-doo, I can draw other cards other ways. So it definitely pushes other decks to the top, and the decks that get punished by it have to have so many answers for it, or just kind of like hope and pray they don't see it. Because we used to see like Lugia used to run a lot of like Pumpkaboo, but I feel like that's completely fallen out of favor.
Right. So with that, you do have to sacrifice consistency to answer such card, right? So if you do right, like the average like stadium bump was 3 on average, and now it's gotten to a point where you have to almost play 5. Then you start cutting into your consistency cards, which then in that scenario, so like, you know, the reason I'm talking about this segment, right, because we played in a very competitive tournament Saturday. Not only was it a cup, but it was 1.5K worth of prizes, so everyone brought their A game. And I will say out of the 44 decks, there were probably over 100 copies of Path to the Peak in the room.
That's true.
Well, how many energy were there?
Less.
Shut up.
Probably less.
And you know, like not only are the Tina decks playing it, but there's now Miraidon, you know, with the Andrew Mahome list from Worlds.
I mean, Gardevoir is running it.
Yeah. And it's a card that's kind of, I guess also like Lost Sun does that too, where it locks out breathing room for other decks to shine until a rotation happens, right? I'm not calling
we
for
kind of like we got locked into a situation where you need to run Path to answer the decks that answer Lost Box, but then Lost Box is still just like a prevalent force of I'm still going to kill you anyways, because they don't really need Path. Like they don't care about Path as much as other decks, and so but then other decks really lose to Path, so then you're just kind of still going into this like strength vacuum or strength whirlwind or something where they're just constantly applying pressure on themselves, but then all the other decks just get squeezed out.
Right. So those decks that are good into the Lost Zone, right? Like the Unga Bunga, like Eric likes to play it. He's a master of Arceus, Duraludon, and Umbreon. They get really hurt. Yeah, they get really hurt by the Path. You know, the Lugia
I even
decks
run it,
people,
but yeah, it still sucks.
Yeah, the Lugia decks, right? If they don't have an out to Path, they kind of can't play the game. I mean, they can still discard it with their attack, but they're not summoning start turn 2 to get rolling, and you can start pressuring. So I think that's where we're into this scissor effect, where it's forcing, you know, decks to answer this, and that's why Tina's running away with all these tournaments, because nothing in the deck cares about Path to the Peak, other than, you know, Greninja, but typically you only need 1 or 2 effects of it in a game to get its use out of it.
I think another aspect to this we talked about in a previous episode of best of 1 versus best of 3 decks, and I think that Lost Box Tina ends up having a really good best of 1 matchup, but not a great best of 3 time.
I don't think I would agree with that.
No, because from from the outside, it's super consistent. But then why isn't it doing better in best of 3 events?
It is.
I don't know if I would call it. I think Turbo Lost Box is a lot more consistent. I actually don't think. I mean, it's consistent, but I would say it's not as consistent as Miraidon Mew. Like, there's so many more consistent decks. I think it's way better in best of 3.
For Turbo Lost Box or normal Lost Box?
No, Giratina Lost Box.
Giratina? Okay.
If you look at Twitter, it's just like, won this cup with Tina, won this cup with Lost Tina, won this cup with Lost Tina. It's all Lost Tina right now in like best of 3. At least in Swiss, not in Swiss. Top Cut. I know not
Yeah,
all the Swiss rounds are best of 3, but
let's get the opinion of the. I think our best Lost Tina player, Dyson's gotten so many points from it. Like
Yeah.
what do you feel, Dyson? First best of 1, best of 3, the deck. Let's hear your insight on it.
I just think Tina overall is just in best of 1 and in best of 3. It's still going to be a very, very good deck. It's slightly less favored in the best of 1 matchup, but I agree with Trenton. You know, I think Tina's a better best of 3 deck.
Why do you think there's a narrative that Lost Tina is a bad deck?
That's well, like that was before Jet Energy came out.
But even with the Jet Energy, I know there's a lot of people talking about.
he
Like
he
Lost Tina
memed
being
recently
the worst.
that the deck's still not good.
Yeah, but he was joking. He's
I know,
He's trolling.
he said that it's a good deck after.
He's
Jet
probably
Energy
playing it at Pittsburgh.
Probably.
So Dyson, you
It's just
tell
this-
us. Yeah, tell us about the Jet. Let us know what's the secret.
The Jet Energy combo is just so. It's just so key. You can use it on your Comfies. You can attach it to your Tina after your Mirage Gate. It's insane.
That does seem like one of the biggest reasons that deck just pops off.
Abyss Seeking is a very good attack. Get your Lost Zone heavied up. And just Star Requiem is, I'd say, the second best V-Star power in the game right now.
Yeah. First is probably
Side.
4 Sealstone.
What are you talking about? Arceus is a double for a Sealstone.
Yeah, but
have
where
to run
where
Arceus.
where are the Arceus placements?
You're right. Sealstone does work under Path, so
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah, that Star Requiem ability, it can just put you so far ahead in so many matches.
it also lets you set up like weird checkmate situations where
Exactly.
if they can't answer it, you just win.
Right. So, with that, Dyson, what is your ideal opening start with Lost Tina?
Most Lost Box decks, it's probably just a Comfy, and if you got some Battle VIP passes,
Like
you know,
two VIP passes and an S ball.
Yeah, that's very
A
doable.
switch
Or a
card
jet.
of some sort. Yeah.
If you start with a Jet, it's just such a pop-off turn.
Yeah, if you have that Jet turn 1.
Right. So the action is Lost Tina players are opening Comfy, they're flower selecting. Not to mention if they have VIP pass and then concealed cards to thin their deck, but it's opening play, flower select to get 1 card into the Lost Zone. Jet will bring up another one to get a second card into the Lost Zone, and then the retreat off the Jet will get a 3rd Comfey to get a 3rd card into the Lost Zone. So that combined with Choruses, combined with Abyss Seekings, or even getting to 7 and turn 2 using Tina's Lost Impact, you're getting to 10 much sooner than a lot of the Lost Zone variants, which unlocks the Sableye plays and Star Requiem.
Yeah, and Sableye you're probably your closing card to set up those checkmate plays.
How consistently are you getting the turn 2 Mirage Gate?
That one's, I'm not sure. It's usually, for me personally, it's usually like a turn 3 or 4 at the least. Turn 2 is just insane.
It does seem like more of a turbo Lost Box build wants to hit that Mirage Gate like as
Right.
soon as
That's why I was
possible.
curious if Tina can do it as frequently.
I do play a Lost Vacuum in my list, which definitely helped. Because there was a couple plays where I would Lost Vacuum, get rid of a Battle VIP pass when I don't need it, to bump my own stadium. That would usually get me to the 7th. Start using Mirage Gate turn 2. So Lost Vacuum helps.
I remember there was a particular match where you got rid of a choice belt on a Mew, I think it was.
I don't want to talk about it.
Well, he wasn't asking you. He was talking
So
to.
he Roxanne, right? He had his Giratina active. He got the Lost Vacuum, Lost Vacuum my choice belt, which is why I needed the extra power tablet. And then that also put him exactly to 10.
What a checkmate. Absolute checkmate. So it definitely seems like this deck kind of has a bit of an answer for everything. Or if it doesn't care, it just rolls it and moves on.
I think Tina has probably the best overall meta matchup.
So, from what I've seen, Tina has a 40-something% into Gardevoir, which was surprising to me, because it seems like it should be like a pretty decent matchup for the Tina side. But it does have a positive play rate against. This is part of the gathering info. I'm looking on Limitless for this. It seems like it's pretty neutral or positive against most other matchups. But why do we not think we're seeing Gardevoir come up out of the Tina ashes, like to farm them? Is that 40% more indicative of like matchup, like event variance?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's like a couple decks that have fine matchups against Tina. I think Turbo Lost Box, fine matchup against Tina. Gardevoir has a fine matchup. I don't think the matchup's like necessarily good for either deck. It's just not a bad matchup.
It's not like an Arctura or Charizard.
Like Gardevoir is one of the
You don't need to call me out like that.
Oh, I do.
Gardevoir is one of the few decks that can one-shot a Tina, which is pretty important when you're trading 1 for 2. I think the reason you're not seeing more Gardevoir placing well is because of time.
Yep.
I bet the amount of draws that Gardevoir players have been seeing is pretty high.
Yeah, if you play Gardevoir, you gotta play lightning speed. You don't get to think. If you think
no
you
torting
lose.
it up.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just going Goblin mode every time I play him now.
Yeah.
Right. I will say, so like with this high level tournament coming up, right? We will get to this in the next part about the payouts. Going into a high level payout tournament, choosing a deck like Gardevoir, knowing that there's the big lizard lurking, waiting for its 60 to be found, also like terrifies me. Right, because every Gardevoir I played this weekend I beat. So, and that was even with them one-shotting the lizard. Like I was able to just keep chasing down the EX and put them in a tough position to have to go find it again to get enough damage to knock it out.
See, I feel like it's not that bad of a matchup for Gardevoir. I feel like it's favorable.
I don't know if I'd say it's favorable.
I mean, I'm seeing like 44%, so it's like a 56 into it. So it's barely slightly favorable.
For Guardy or for Zard?
It's favorable for Guardy.
Okay, yeah.
For Guardy?
That checks out.
By like 6%.
I don't know.
Based off of some of these metrics I've been saying.
I guess the thing is, if they are chasing the Gardevoir, they're leaving your baby Gardevoir with energies in play.
Yup.
So I don't think you actually can chase the big Gardevoir.
That does seem more board state specific than anything.
Well, I mean, you should have that board. If you don't have that board state, you're losing. So
Right. Like in that matchup in particular, you're probably not evolving into the EX until you have enough energy in discard to swing for a huge knockout with a baby Guardy.
yeah.
Unless you've been doing like Cresselia plays early to take out Charmanders, which is also totally reasonable.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I feel like, especially for other decks, like we've got Lost Box, Tina, Turbo Lost Box, which is basically Lost Box. Like you just take the core of Lost Box and throw in your favorite attackers. It's kind of that whole sphere of Lost Box. Gardevoir, and then Charizard is in a weird spot because it seems like it should have a much better win rate than it really does on paper. But in actuality, it just doesn't quite get there. Especially looking at any kind of like, cup or challenge, you don't see it doing super
Path.
well.
It's just Path. If there was
Yeah.
no Path,
Path.
it would probably be one of the best decks.
I
He
would
just
agree with
path.
that.
Right. So once those lists start to incorporate, the 5 spots to countering past stadiums, it does put itself in a really good position. Or maybe moving towards a support that's not rule box power base, right? So like the barrels, or maybe even the Corellia engine to draw cards, or incorporating the Lost Box itself to have it be the big attacker.
I have been seeing that style of list of Lost Box Charizard. It seems kind of tight.
Yeah.
I lost to it on Sunday, but I have weakness to Dark with a Shadow Rider. It's not a good matchup. But you skipped over the two best support Pokemon for the Charizard. The Lunatone and the Solrock.
Isn't
For the Charizard?
Go ahead.
Oh, you could.
which Lunatone Solrock? This isn't the energy attached one, is it?
The Solrock doesn't matter. It's the Lunatone that matters. The Lunatone says ignore or prevent all effects of any stadiums in play done to your Pokemon.
If you have a Solrock in play.
If you have a Solrock in play.
Huh.
So you're
Which is why I was
able
playing
to get through path.
Yeah, so in the Shadow Rider deck I was playing the Lunatone and Solrock. But I was also playing the Lunatone that powers it up because it boosts Shadow Rider's damage by having Psychic in play. So it works really well in that deck, but
It's kind of cute.
Well, yeah, that definitely is something that we could see in, because Pidgeot Quick Search. I use that effect quite a few times on Sunday, and it's a really powerful effect. To either go track down the boss's order to chase important prizes, or to go grab research to refill my hand. So yeah, that was a good point, Daniel.
Lunarok, it's a combo. Unless you play Path in decks that you wouldn't otherwise be able to play Path in.
At the cost of two very, 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 very precious bench spaces.
Collapse Stadium.
Well, yeah. Well,
But if they
in a
play
deck like
Collapse,
Charizard,
if they play
No,
Collapsed, path isn't in play, so I think that's fine for you.
Got him.
It's true.
Although,
It's true.
if they play Collapsed and you have Lunatone
I
and
don't know what
Solrock in play,
I don't know how it's gonna play out, and I don't want to think about it.
I don't think it does anything. If they play... No,
Well, they would
no,
lose a
No,
Pokemon.
you lose a Pokemon.
It affects the
too.
player, not the
yeah,
Pokemon.
It checks the player,
exactly.
not the yeah.
I thought it said to you and your Pokemon, but then I was like, yeah, it just says Pokemon.
No, it's just your Pokemon.
Yeah.
That'd be insane if it wasn't out to Collapse too.
Yeah.
So speaking of all of these events and theories and deck lists and what we think might be BDF and all that, that leads into the regionals coming up. I believe Pittsburgh is in 2 weeks, which should be one of
Probably
the
a week from the time of record. Posting.
a week from after posting, and that'll be one of the big regional cup events we're gonna have going on. And this event we will see the pricing change, I believe, where they upped all of the prizes for regionals and ICs, the big premier events, by a huge margin. Just an absolute insane amount. For instance, first place at a regional now is $10,000.
Wow.
And it used to be, what, 1,000 before, I want to say?
I think it was like $2,000 or something.
Yeah, it was
Something
not.
It was 5.
Was it 500 or 5K?
grand. 5K.
5K.
It was $5.
It was $5 whole dollars?
5 basic
so-
energy.
Whoa. That's for masters, of course. Seniors is up to 2,500, which is still not a small number.
What you mean to say is seniors is about $100 while the parents get to keep the rest.
Usually those are scholarships unless they change that.
it's
I have no idea.
it is cash stipend.
Interesting. Good to know. But yeah, so 10K for first, which is double. If it was 5K before, it's double, which is quite nice. 7K for second. 3 and 4 gets 5K, and then 3K for top 8, 2K for top 16, 32 gets 1K. And it doesn't go further down, which I don't think it did before either. But these are a much, much larger increase in pricing for, more specifically, the lower fields. Like top 32, Trenton, when you got 22nd at Portland, you got what, like $250?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 4x. You would have
Yeah.
gotten $1,000.
That's crazy.
Like it's so it, and then for international championships, they also increased those ones by also pretty much double across the board. I believe first place is 25,000 now.
Ooh.
Second place is, as I'm stalling to load the results, 15K. And then 10K top 4, 7K top 8, 5K top 16, 3K top 32, and then 2K for top 64. So again, just increasing by a very large amount the amount of money made. And this is something that I actually quite like. This brings another dynamic to the game where before used to, like, yeah, the money was nice, it wasn't as much, but then Worlds was where the big prizes are. And I'm wondering if they're the way they're kind of compensating not as many people going to Worlds is by making the lower event, quote unquote, lower events worth more, which I personally kind of like.
Yeah, I think the big implication is theoretically, if you are consistently placing well at regionals and ICs, it's not completely outlandish to consider going quote unquote pro.
Yeah,
Like, it's a lot of
like,
money.
there's what usually how many regionals are in a year?
Usually around 15 in the US.
15. Okay. So this is the tricky part. So if you can make top 32, that's 1K per event. So that's 15K. But that's not including cost of travel, hotels. In theory, like, as someone who may not have a ton of bills,
every event.
right?
That's yeah.
I'm just
I
saying
am.
hypothetically. If you can get top 32 in most events, that's not really a livable wage, honestly.
No, but you are probably covering your next
A
tournament
lot of
fee.
expenses, yes. It's definitely fueling into the next event, which I think that's basically kind of going quote unquote infinite, which definitely seems like a lot more doable now. It definitely makes it a lot more interesting to try to make just like top pushes just to get a high placing in a regional, so that way you're winning a decent chunk of change versus hoping you get Worlds.
Right. In my opinion on this change, what I really liked is we got all the information of how to get to Worlds and how many points was needed. And everyone was looking at, like, I have to go to 6 regionals and at least get 512. Right. So like,
Mm-hmm.
this point, it motivates each separate tournament as something that, like, you're preparing like you're going to Worlds. Right. So half of our team is going to the open regionals, and we are going to jam as much games or knowledge as we can, which I think is really exciting. Like, when you're watching a finals and a regionals, right? The difference between 10K and 5K is huge. So that top deck makes a big difference, right? That
Mhm.
5K top deck. So, or
It's actually, yeah,
3K.
second place is 3K difference. Oh man, lose. This is a 3K lost top deck. Ugh. I can't
Right,
think about it that way. That's brutal.
3K, no
Absolutely.
VIP.
Right?
On top of the automatic world invite for that player, right? Like, it's just going to be
True.
super hyped to watch. I'm really glad Pokemon's reinvested into the competitive scene. It's exactly, I think we've been lacking the last couple of years with this COVID and not having competitive play to really get a season full of just high-end play. So that's my 2 cents on the pricing. I'm excited. I've enjoyed every moment of chasing this project with, you guys and my son. So it's been awesome.
I will say on the flip side, this does also mean there's going to be more sweat per event. There will be more people who are going to try to find, let's just say, unfair advantages or cheating, or like, I would be more cautious now with more stake on the line, that people will be more willing to lower their morality a bit in order to make sure they can get that extra 2K or that extra even $500 now. So just also be aware that people going to these events now aren't necessarily there. Before, I would say mostly it was to celebrate Pokemon and maybe do well, go to Worlds. But like, now there's a higher monetary value for it. Less of them are likely to be your friends outside or inside a game. I would expect to be more strict, more rigid, and start being more active on judge calls and, calling out when you think something's a little bit suspect. With real
Right.
money on the line, there's going to be people who will do real stuff to get it.
Right. Like, would you say an example of that is if you're playing an opponent that you feel like you have a better matchup in, and you see their rate of play change, or
Yeah, you could see them slow down, or maybe like they drew something kind of shifty and it's a little bit weird, and you're like, I'm not sure how that played out. Or I would always be cutting or shuffling a deck as well. Um, I'm going to stop tapping at large events now. I'm going to cut the deck. Stuff like that.
that's
I
some great
will
advice.
riffle shuffle your deck.
I'll riffle shuffle your deck on stream.
I will pile shuffle your deck. But definitely, there's going to be that aspect of people who are going to be definitely more try hard, more wanting to win the larger cash pools, and so I don't think it'll be as huge of a deal depending on where you are at the event. Once you get to below half placing tables, you're probably not going to run into that many people as much. But definitely as you get into the top tables, it's going to be a lot more competitive.
Yeah, I would also say it should clean up your own play too. Not
Yes.
necessarily always look out for their stuff, but clean your own play up to make sure there's zero question on if you deserve that extra, or if you deserve the spot you're at.
That's some great advice, guys. Anyone else have 2 cents they want to add on the regional format and price structure?
I'm going for that first place.
Yeah,
Get
I'm not.
that
I don't got to worry about it. I'm
W.
just gonna get the money anyways and call it
Yeah.
good.
Let's
It'll be
get-
me and Dyson in the finals, and we're just gonna start doing like weird stuff on camera.
It's gonna be me and Trenton in the finals of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Casey and Dyson in the finals. Casey's gonna can I go use the bathroom on stage, like off stage, and then I'm gonna come in,
Swap places.
and then partway through, Casey's gonna run out like, "Who is this guy? What's going on?"
You've allowed this, Judge? Oh my goodness. Oh.
One of these days we'll get.
For
something
those who
fun.
may not know, we are identical twins, very identical twins. So they would have no way of knowing.
Mildly identical twins.
Once you get to know us, there's differences, but most people when they first see us are like, "Hold up." And Casey has a beard and I don't, so that also hurts. So we'd have to make a change.
You would be growing a beard for it.
All right. Well, I think that about covers everything we wanted to go over today. We actually went on way longer than I thought we were going to, which is super cool because we kind of came up with an amazing list of things to cover because it's just been kind of a slow news period as we're in between big events and there's just not a ton of really fun things happening. We just had a new set, which doesn't seem super impactful. Again. Well, yeah. And big events are looming, so it's ramping up. So it's not bad to have a nice calm week before the storm. So yeah, I want to thank everyone for listening to the Mildly Competitive Podcast. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave us a little comment below on whatever app you may be listening to. I don't think you can comment on Spotify, so just YouTube. If you don't mind giving us a like, a sub, whatever the follow button is for Spotify, that would be great. And this is the Mildly Competitive Crew signing out.
See ya.
Later,
Bye.
y'all.
Later, y'all.
See